Hi, I'm Christelle Tomlinson, and welcome to this edition of Issue of the Week, where we wrap up the issue that has dominated Jamaican public life for the last week. Now, this issue we could call the issue of the month, a very tangled weave of corruption, a cesspool, some might call it. But before we look at the web that has been weaved, let's zone in first on the spiders that have been weaving it. Ruel Reid is the face of this MOE-CMU saga. But he didn't just pop up into political life on his own. He actually did so when the door was opened for him by the now Prime Minister Andrew Holness. When Mr. Holness was Minister of Education, he appointed Mr. Reid his advisor in the ministry. Shortly after that, Mr. Holness became leader of the JLP and then took steps unconstitutionally to remove 2 sitting senators and replace them with Mr. Reid among the new 2. But the court struck that appointment down, so Mr. Reid was unceremoniously removed from the Senate and waited in the doldrums until Mr. Holness became Prime Minister. After becoming Prime Minister, Mr. Holness quickly reappointed Mr. Reid to the Senate and gave him leadership over the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. But he wasn't satisfied. He also wanted to be a Member of Parliament. Here is what Andrew Holness had to say as he introduced the candidate for Northwest St. Anne, Mr. Ruel Reid.
In speaking with Ruel, we went through some of those principles. And it was clear that what I believed in and what the party believed in, it accorded with what he believed in.
So what are the values they share? I'm asking a question. Is one of those values to violate the Ministerial Code of Conduct? The 2002 Code of Conduct, Section 1, Subsection 6, requires that ministers ensure there is no conflict or appears to be no conflict between their public responsibilities and their private affairs. Here's how Ruel Reid violated that particular code. 1, his helper's bank account was used, allegations say, to funnel money out of the Ministry of Education. The helper has gone on record to say she had no idea what was going on and has apparently been fainting in church from all the emotional and physical stress this debacle has caused. His wife was appointed Manager of Legal Affairs at the Caribbean Maritime University under the purview of the Ministry of Education. There's also questions around her qualification because it is being revealed she does not have a legal certificate to practice law, much less to manage legal affairs of this public institution. Let's locate Othniel Lawrence in this conversation. A former Member of Parliament for Northwest St. Anne, the same constituency of interest to Mr. Reid. At the time that Ruel Reid was serving as Minister of Education, Othniel was the caretaker. A few days before Mr. Reid was announced as candidate, Othniel Lawrence was on Facebook talking about how well taken care of he is by the Prime Minister. Now, this taking care of seems to be linked with a contract that he signed with the Caribbean Maritime University, yes, the same institution under the Ministry of Education, for work that we're still trying to find. Kim Brown Lawrence, a councillor in that constituency, has also been brought up on charges of possession of criminal property and conspiracy to defraud in this Education Ministry CMU corruption case. But thankfully, long run, short catch. Mr. Reid and his cluster of spiders have been arrested and charged.
Ruel Reid has been arrested and charged with possession of criminal property, conspiracy to defraud, engaging in transactions involving criminal property, misconduct in a public office, and corruption. President of the Caribbean Maritime University, Fritz Pinnock, has been charged with conspiracy to defraud, engaging in transactions involving criminal property, misconduct in a public office, and corruption. Kim Brown Lawrence has been charged with possession of criminal property and conspiracy to defraud. And Ruel Reid's wife and daughter, Sharon Reid and Sherelle Reid, have been charged with possession of criminal property and conspiracy to defraud.
If they are prosecuted and found guilty, Ruel Reid would be the first politician in my generation to actually go to prison and serve a term for corruption. So my fingers are crossed that justice will show itself to be not just for the poor, but for the wealthy, powerful, and connected too.